It's great to have you on this interview with Chris and I.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here with you guys.
Thanks, Lee.
We look forward to kind of digging in and finding more about you and your career, what you do day to day, your investment theory, your investment ideas, your thinking behind that, especially on the real estate side, and even wrap up with a few fun questions about you yourself and maybe your family a little bit. So let's get started. Let's just start at the beginning here, at least, sort of the beginning of anybody's career. Where'd you go to school? And how did you choose to go to that school?
Yeah, well, I actually went to the University of Washington and graduated with an undergraduate degree in political science. And I picked the University of Washington because, being a lifelong Washingtonian, especially in the Puget Sound area, that was the school of my dreams. And then after I finished my studies at the University of Washington, I decided to go into to get an accounting degree. So I went to Seattle U, and I actually got another undergraduate degree there. Wasn't really at the time, didn't think about pursuing a master's. It was more just wanting to just get that foundation. So that's why I chose to get an undergraduate degree. And I had heard that Seattle U at the time and still today has a very good business school and accounting program.
Wow, that's actually quite interesting that you started off in political science. What has that really affected how you do accounting or how your approach to accounting is compared to some of your other peers in the industry?
Yeah, well, I don't really look and compare myself to others, but the reason I chose political science to start with was because when I went to the University of Washington, my mom said, "Go into accounting." So I said, "No."
She got her wish,
Oh,
obviously.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, at the end,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yes, at the end, she had the last laugh. So, but no, I mean, actually, what happened was I did take accounting 101 at the University of Washington, but in that same quarter, I took a political science class, and I discovered that me being a current events junkie, that was actually way more interesting for me, and so that's what I wanted to pursue. And the other thing too was I really liked the analytical aspect, being able to do research and write papers and make arguments, right? And so that's what I wanted, and so that's why I pursued that. And then in terms of answering your question of how has that helped me, I found that to be very helpful. After I graduated from Seattle University, I joined Deloitte and Touche as a staff auditor, and a lot of that work is not a lot of number crunching. It's really evaluating financial statements, evaluating our clients' financial results, and also looking at the accounting rules that come out and determine whether some of their complex issues and transactions meet those accounting rules. And what's included in that is the analysis and the research, and as well as writing those position papers. And that helped me a lot in my career when I was at Deloitte. And then when I moved on to Grant Thornton, it was very helpful. And then
interesting.
now, currently I'm a corporate controller for a real estate company, and same thing. We have memos or transactions where we need to document, our positions, and so that's been very helpful to me too.
Yes, that understanding of qualitative and quantitative.
Hmm.
That's a good combo.
Yep.
So tell us now, since you kind of started, it's a good dovetail into your role now. What has sort of been your career, and how did you pick the company you worked with?
Sure. Yeah, so like I said, I started with my career at Deloitte, where I did a lot of public company accounting or auditing, and did the same thing when I went over to Grant Thornton. A lot of my focus was on just large and small clients in any kind of industry. Me being very curious about a lot of things, I didn't really have a particular focus. But what I did discover was that I really was interested in manufacturing and in real estate. And the reason for that is because the products that are included in those industries are very tangible. With manufacturing, you're building something. How do you get the raw material into the final product? What's the process? And that to me is very interesting. And then on the real estate side, of course, you see buildings and homes and all the construction related to it, and that also piqued my interest. And so having a career with Grant Thornton and Deloitte allowed me to pursue those interests. And so when I got to the point where I was ready to leave Grant Thornton, I actually had an opportunity to go work for a global manufacturing company based in Kent, and it was actually pretty exciting, to be able to be involved on that side of the business and to sit and work with my teams with the executive team and to come up with a strategy and how do we implement those strategy, and then how do we get the data from our accounting records, right, to evaluate. How do we evaluate that to ensure that our strategy is working? That to me was a lot of fun. And then after a few years of doing that, I decided I wanted to try something different, and an opportunity with this company came my way, and so I decided to look into it and thought this would actually be a really good fit, especially where I was at the time, as well as my kids being older. I wanted to be able to spend more time with them, and so my current position allows me to do that.
So what has been
That's great.
your biggest one or two challenges in what you do day to day now?
I think for me, it's really because of the pandemic. We are working remote some of the times. Last year at the beginning of the pandemic, we went to almost 100% remote, and that was a pretty challenging time because I was new to the company, and I was working with a property accountant who had a lot of property accounting experience, but there were still some areas where she could continue to develop. And since right now we're a two-person team, there's things where I would love to be able to teach her so that she and I can do some analysis, right, and be able to drive like new processes and procedures to ensure that we're meeting our company's strategies. And so that's been really difficult, right? Is that the training is really difficult when you're doing remote. And so a lot of times it's getting used to, using Zoom, especially in the beginning. It was just learning to do that and then figuring out, okay, what's the best way to train, my property accountant so that her and I can basically, create a world-class organization. So to me, that's just the biggest challenge that I see right now.
Great.
Yeah, it's difficult to train and really have that face-to-face time that's needed
Mm-hmm.
for a manager to really bring that person up to speed. That's definitely a difficulty across a lot of companies. So
Yeah. To me, I really value FaceTime, and so I think once I guess this year, we actually moved into a new office space. So once we completed our move, I actually am spending more time in the office because I do prefer that FaceTime.
nice.
So,
Well, Buck,
Chris,
did you have any
I'm
other?
going to pass it to
Yeah,
you, and let's
yeah, sure. We can
let's
we
talk.
can dive in a little bit. It's obviously something you've got a lot of interests and passions, and I always have found that from an investment standpoint, it's always wise to find something you're interested in and that you really want to spend the time and educate yourself on and let that drive a good portion of your investments. So let's dive in. Tell us a little bit about your investment portfolio. How maybe even back up a little bit and how you got first started. I mean, in
Sure.
investing. I mean, it's always a different story of how people realized I should really start saving and investing.
Yeah, I think for me, I've always had this really mean independent streak, and my parents weren't really used to it. We have, coming from a Chinese background, right? It was a lot of it was reverence to the family, to the parents, and not that I had any disrespect for my parents, but I really wanted to be able to prove myself, right? And
Hmm.
so, right from the beginning, when I started in my career, for me, I did a lot of savings, right? Because I wanted to prove to my parents that I can take care of myself, kind of break that, Chinese girl mold, right?
Yep.
Being obedient and wanting to show them that I can stand on my own 2 feet. And so I started off just with doing a lot of savings because my goal was to be able to buy my own house
Hmm.
and to be able to be financially self-sufficient, right? And so that's how I started. And actually, my first real estate purchase, is a condo, which Chris, you've actually have been to for some parties, and and I was able to purchase that with I was able to I saved enough for a down payment, but then my parents also contributed to that as well, so I felt pretty good about it. And and so that was my first purchase. And then I met my husband, and his family has been renting properties for a while, and so got into property rentals because of him. And when we moved after we got married and we bought a house, we actually kept my condo and we rented that out. And it's been almost 20 years now, and I still have that condo because it's such a great investment for us. And then thereafter, a lot of our investing has been in real estate because of how well we've done.
Hmm.
But we've also invest in mutual funds. I don't have a lot of time, so for me, it's the mutual fund route is a lot more, I guess, more safe for me compared to just outright investing in stocks. That's a little too sophisticated for me. So I would prefer just something where it's hands off, so I can spend my time doing other stuff. So a lot of my investing right now is just the real estate as well as in mutual funds, and then I talked to you, Chris, last year and about the Kirkland Income Fund, and we thought, between my husband Charles and I, we just thought, hey, this might be something interesting for us to diversify, because one of the things that one of our goals is is to really generate wealth and accumulate wealth, right? And this was one way where we thought, well, this is something new for us, it may be something worth looking into. And so so for us, that's the reason why we decided to participate in this fund.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of the conversations we had. Maybe you can kind of
Hmm.
describe, dive into it's new for you, but it was also, I believe there was spurred from some challenges that you guys were experiencing in the direct ownership aspect and if you could kind of walk through a little bit of what you guys were experiencing in the direct ownership of real estate and why you thought, okay, hey, maybe we should think about something that's still real estate related.
Hmm.
It still has that downside protection aspect that people love about real estate, but it was different from what you were already doing, and how that sort of resonated with you and Charles.
Sure, yeah. So, as I mentioned, Charles brought into the marriage a rental property, right? And so it was actually a triplex. He was living in one of the units and renting out the other two. Um, and then I, rented out my condo. So mine being at the time, fairly new unit, a new property, I had very little challenges, very little maintenance. It was very easy. We hired a leasing agent to help us rent out the condo, and then from there was hardly any maintenance because it's a new building. So I didn't really have to do anything. So it was actually really nice passive income for us. On the triplex side, it's an older building, and being that my husband was he was living there, so he was on site. It was easy for the tenants to knock on his door every time there was a problem, And it got to the point where um, we just decided, that was a lot of work for us. We wanted to be able to pursue some of our interests and not have to always be at our tenant's beck and call. So he eventually sold it, and and then at the time, it was, I believe, in the early or mid 2000s with the big condo building boom in downtown Seattle. So we invested in another brand new project and purchased another condo, and and with that piece of property, it was also nice passive income for us. We didn't have to do a lot of maintenance, and really liked that a lot. And so we only have one rental property because we ended up selling that property in downtown Seattle through an unsolicited offer. So it was actually kind of nice to that we didn't put anything on the market, but we had a buyer come to us and say, "Hey, I want this property." And so then when you came to us Chris, just being able to listen and understand from you what kind of real estate the fund is investing in, and the fact that we really don't have to do much other than um, invest, make our minimum investment, right? It was really nice to be able to just see, again, this is nice passive income for us. We don't have to do much. And really, it's you and Brock and your team. You guys are doing all the work, and that was totally fine with us. Yeah, and the fact that you guys are also investing in real estate property, or I'm sorry, offering loans to, developing, to existing real estate property, it was really it gave us some comfort because we knew that there was some kind of underlying asset that's backing up what we're investing in.
Yeah, no, that's one of the core premises of what we're creating here. Do you have any future views? What are you looking for in the future of your investments? I mean, it sounds like you still have your condo. You had a great selling opportunity of the one downtown. Charles is no longer being bothered to come fix appliances. Do you have anything that you're looking for? I mean, you're obviously an investor in our fund. Give us a sort of an insight of maybe what your next adventure is, or where your thoughts are.
Yeah, so right now, I think, for us, definitely, well, we want to be able to grow our real estate empire, right? And I do believe that our continuing involvement in the Kirkland Income Fund is going to help us achieve that. In that it'll give us, it'll help us develop, it'll help us generate some really nice passive income without actually having to physically own any real estate property. And that to us is very attractive. The other thing too is that we're also looking at other real estate, opportunities to determine whether it makes a lot of sense for us to, purchase. We've been doing really well with the brand new condos. We've been very lucky, with that. And so that is something that we're looking into and possibly, evaluating whether we want to pursue this. But it's just something that Charles and I have been talking about for the last year. So we're still evaluating what we want to do. And considering, with the pandemic and everything that's going on, it's something that we're not really interested in rushing into right now.
Yeah, patience is a virtue, that's
About
for sure. But
some of the, oh, sorry about that, Chris. I was going to ask Lee, what's your feeling about some of the offerings around syndicated apartment complexes, multifamily? That seems to be a popular thing to invest in on the real estate side, where you can take an LP or a passive investment and kind of grow things a little differently than what we offer with Kirkland.
you cut out there, Brock. But yeah, he was just saying what the different than Kirkland Income Fund. What's sort of your view on some of these aspects to syndications?
Yeah, I actually think that would be a great opportunity for us if we found the right opportunity, right? Because again, we wouldn't have to manage any of that, and that's just something very attractive for us. The one thing that I look for is the accessibility of the management team, and that's the reason why we invested in the Kirkland Income Fund, is because both of you are very accessible, and when we have questions, you are always available to answer those questions for us, and not just to pay lip service to us, but really, just to make us go away, right? But it's really to have a conversation with us, which is actually very helpful. And so, if there are other opportunities to join a syndicate like you're suggesting, Brock, that is something that we would be interested in if it's the right opportunity, and if we can develop that type of relationship with the management team.
That's smart. I mean, we're big believers in transparency and really being there to
Yes.
make sure that information can be transferred, and then people get build that comfort. That's a very smart view towards whatever you're investing in. Make sure you have that transparency and that link to have a mechanism to have your questions answered. That's
For sure.
myself and many others have made mistakes of being too separated from things, and then by the time something goes wrong and you try to go get information, somehow you can never get anybody. It's a very common mistake, so don't make that one.
Yeah. Well, I'm learning from you. How's that?
Learn from my mistakes. Don't do what I've done in the past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brock, I'll
So,
push it back to
question
you.
for you, Lee. Was this the first time that you've invested in a private fund or a private alternative fund? Was the Kirkland Income Fund?
Yes, it is. Yeah. I mean, I've had clients where they are, a large real estate company that offer funds to outside investors, and which I think that's what attracted me to that, was because of that experience, and of working with those clients, right? And so, but obviously, because I know both of you guys before this, it made me more comfortable in investing in a Kirkland Income Fund because of that prior relationship.
Great, thanks. So, Chris, unless you got some more questions on the investment side, we'll shift to a little bit more personal.
No. I think Lee has a fascinating story that I hope a lot of people watch this. Especially, I work with a lot of younger women at UW and everything else, and they're always trying to figure out how do I get into investments. So Lee, you've done an absolutely amazing job without a lot of hand holding to be on the right track. So congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Hopefully, I can
So,
pass that knowledge along to my
Yes,
kids.
yeah, we hope we can pass
yeah,
that things
I'm
on to our
sure.
kids when they listen. When they listen.
Yeah.
Well, but now you kind of know what you expect. Is if you want your kid to go into accounting, you tell them, I think political science might be good, right?
That's so funny, because that is what I tell them. I'm like, get the balance, right? Go pursue some liberal arts and a business degree, because I think that's going to be
Yeah.
very helpful for you.
Yes.
I think you're right. That balance and being able to both quantitatively and qualitatively look and analyze things is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do
So,
believe, a lot of
particularly,
people get scared when they see financial statements, but you have to realize it's just telling a story. You have to be able to interpret it and, kind of retell that story yourself.
right,
Yes.
right. So, let's switch kind of on the personal thing. It's been a crazy period, particularly with this pandemic, but also, I'm sure, as you mentioned before, with your career and full family. What are things that you would really want to do more of, but you haven't had time for?
That is a really good question. I think what I'd really love to do more of is to just go outside and do more hikes, go visit more of the parks in and around Seattle. Having lived here within the city of Seattle for almost 20 years, never really had a chance to be a tourist in my own city. And a couple of weeks ago, our kids was on midwinter break, and so what we did is we stayed in a hotel in downtown Seattle for a few nights, and we became tourists in our own city, and that was actually a lot of fun, because working so much in the past, and when we have vacation scheduled, we think about going elsewhere. So we've done a lot of really great vacations as a family. We've gone to Mexico, Hawaii, Bermuda, just anywhere, right? But never in the Seattle area. So this is something that I will say, if I'm looking for a silver lining, I'm grateful for the pandemic and that it's forced us to slow down and really look around us and see what's available here. So I've had a chance to take my son up to Discovery Park, where I've never done. I've been there once, but I've never taken my kids up there. And he loved it. He said it was like so much fun to go up there, and he's making plans for us to go back in the summertime when the weather is nicer. So that's just stuff that I'm really looking forward to, and I'm really committed in just making more time for.
What new belief, behavior, or habits that you've adopted in the last 5 years have most positively impacted your life?
I think for me, it's just being able to be agile. I have goals. I know what the end goal looks like, right? and I do have a plan for how to get there. But I also realize that if that plan doesn't work, it's not the end of the world, and I should always have a plan B or a plan C in my back pocket, just to be able to have that agility to adjust and, realize that, hey, there's no one perfect way to do something. So that for me has been really helpful, and it's allowed me to also share that with my children. I know my kids get very frustrated if things don't go the way they plan for, or if my kids like structure, and so if I can't, somehow if my schedule doesn't work and I am not able to do something with them, they get really upset. So then I teach them that to learn to be agile, to come up with a solution for how we can still do something together, but just in a different way.
That's a very, very important life lesson. I'm afraid too many of us take too long to learn.
Yeah, like me. So.
Yeah.
That's
All of us
great.
wish we could learn that one earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. And last, we'll wrap up with, what books have you gifted the most to other people?
Oh my gosh. You know what? This is actually a very hard question. And the reason is because I have not been reading a lot lately since I've had kids, So, but I will say that one of my favorite apps is the Libby app, where it's connected to the library system. And so I've started using that in the last year and have started reading some books off of that. And it's been really great, and so it's given me the opportunity to just find a whole bunch of books, online, and just be able to just read it right off of my iPhone or my iPad. I will say that I don't like reading business books or self-help books or how-to books, and the only reason is because I'm not saying because I'm perfect. It's just that I feel like this is someone else's opinion, which I think it's great, but I would rather look for a form of escapism because I'm working during the day, and there's always a lot of problems and issues that I'm always dealing with. That by the end of the day, I don't want to read another business book. I just want to read something where I can escape. It could be historical fiction. It could even be, oh my gosh, YA, young adult, where I can have a conversation with my daughter and we can have kind of like a book club discussion, which is really nice to be able to see what my kids like to read and be able to share that with them.
That's great.
So yeah, unfortunately, there hasn't been any books I've gifted to anybody because I'd rather just read the kind of books my kids are reading so I can spend time with them.
Well, in some sense, you're gifting those books, or you're gifting that enjoyment of books together with your kids, which is wonderful.
Oh yeah, I guess that's a good point.
Yeah, you're sharing with them.
Well, Lee, it's been a great time to interview and dig in more and find out more about you and share your story with everybody who's watching this.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to share some of my experiences and my views. Again, I really enjoy working with you guys, and I'm really glad that Charles and I are part of this fund, and we're just excited to see what you guys can do, as we continue to progress and grow.
No, thank you.
Great. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, everybody.